The All on Green podcast with Cam and Matt, shining a light on the overlooked sports of New Zealand. Thanks to Baseline.
Welcome back to the All on Green podcast with today's guest, Marco. Welcome aboard.
G'day, fellas. How you doing?
Pretty good.
So you're here to run us through volleyball.
Yeah. So I am. Got the call up. Pretty happy about it. I mean, what can I say? There's lots to talk about, fellas. Do you know much about it?
Yeah.
I know that you're whacking a ball with your hands.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's
Pause.
yeah. It's in a way, yes. You're whacking a ball with your hands, or your arms, or your fingers, or whatever. Yeah.
Could you hypothetically kick the ball?
You can. Yeah. It's completely legal. It's like any part of your body you can use to get the ball up, as long as you don't like kind of catch and throw it. So I guess it's kind of hard to catch and throw with your foot, but like yeah. So it's actually completely legal, which is crazy.
Do you want to give us just a real quick rundown of what sort of field you're in when it comes to volleyball, like what
who you
level
play
you're
for?
at? And
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I've lived in Christchurch for like 4 years now, since high school. I play currently for Pioneer Volleyball Club, which is one of the club teams that runs out of Christchurch. I've represented Christchurch, I think, once when I was a bit younger, and like provincial tournaments, but in volleyball, at least in New Zealand, like our provincial tournaments aren't really as big as our club stuff. A lot more people play the club volleyball, and it's kind of more of a higher level sometimes because there's players who won't be included. But yeah, it's a pretty big growing sport in New Zealand. There's in terms of like the school volleyball and stuff, I think it's like the biggest school tournament in New Zealand. It's like, there's so many teams that compete each year, like 200 plus, I think, sometimes, which is like in early March. And then our kind of regular season runs through winter for indoor stuff, which is cool. But yeah, Pioneer Volleyball Club, and been there for a few years now. So safe to say that's home for me at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. So is that where like you started? Did you start at Pioneer and then just have stick through it?
Yeah, I started playing volleyball in high school. I went to Waimea College up in Nelson. Kind of started during year 9, and then I missed a few years because I had a knee injury, unfortunately, but played a bit through high school and then managed to come out pretty all right, and then came down here to play club, which is just like, it's entirely different down here. Like it's way more frequent than it was up in Nelson. We're playing a lot more games. You're able to kind of get amongst it a bit more, especially like because coming off the school season, which is sort of term 1, all of those guys play up in the club division, just maybe a little bit lower grades, and stuff like that. But it's way more involved down here.
Yeah. So club is like huge. It's like bigger than kind of like regionals.
Yeah, 100%. So how it works basically is like we have sort of 4 zones. So there's the southern zone, central zone, which is sort of like Wellington and kind of up towards Hawke's Bay a little bit. Then Midland zone, which is sort of like Waikato and whatnot, and then northern zone, which is like Auckland and Harbour. And basically, for our club volleyball, we play in those zones. We have tournaments, so we have about three tournaments that are sort of like the grading tournaments. So we'll play against teams from Christchurch as well as Nelson, and then down south in Otago or Southland, who don't have too many teams there.
So that division is like the whole South Island.
That's the whole South Island. So yeah, we've got the biggest region, but there's far fewer teams in the South Island than there are up in the North Island. Like Auckland alone would probably beat us like 4 times over for the amount of clubs that they have, just because there's so many more people playing volleyball there.
Where's like the furthest you'd had to travel? Like how far down south have you had to go?
So we used to do some Dunedin trips, which were pretty fun, to be fair. They kind of redid that structure, because what would happen is we'd have, I think, 2 Christchurch tournaments, and then there'd be a Nelson tournament and then a Dunedin tournament.
Yeah.
And what would happen is the Christchurch teams would be the ones kind of going up and down, but the Nelson teams wouldn't go down for Dunedin, and vice versa, because it's way too far for them to go, you know. But they kind of changed it, and now we're just in Christchurch which is pretty cool because it means the Christchurch team sort of help like subsidise those guys so they can travel, and it means we can just stay here the whole time. But the Dunedin trips were definitely a highlight, I think, for everyone at the club. We had a hotel there called the Leviathan that I think a lot of us boys have had some pretty good memories in. It's fair to say. Pretty busy Saturday nights there that have happened.
Big time.
Yeah, big time.
So you mentioned something about while you were in high school, a knee injury. Was that sport related or?
It was sport related. So I actually, funnily enough, not playing volleyball. In year 10, I was a pretty keen football player. So I was a goalkeeper back in my heyday, and it was year 10. It's like when I was 14 or something. But yeah, I had a pretty nasty injury trying to like go out one morning. We were playing, I think one of the Nelson College teams. Went out to go contest a tackle outside of my box, just stuck my foot down wrong. The guy kind of hit me on the side and boom, I'd done an ACL, which, At 14, I had no idea what even an ACL was at that point, which was, it was pretty tough stuff for that to happen early on. And I was kind of like, when the doctor told me, no playing for 9 to 12 months, it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean, mate? Like, you're telling me I'm supposed to have a surgery and this sort of thing. But so I had that in year 10 and then ended up actually redoing it again the year after in the same knee, which was, not fun again. So I was off sport for kind of like 2 years, I guess, from like year 10 to year 12, which was pretty tough. But I've managed to be all right since then. It's sort of something you kind of have to manage consistently, but yeah.
Right, should we dive into the wheel?
I was about to say,
we
haven't
even run through the wheel
I don't
yet.
think you have yet. We haven't chatted on it.
So, Marco, if it lands on a black, we're going to ask you a sport volleyball related question.
Cool.
If it lands on red, we're going to ask you a more personal question. It could still be volleyball related. It might not be.
Right.
If it lands on green, the episode ends.
The episode ends.
The episode ends.
We're all finished.
Yep. No context at all.
Is it a double zero or just?
Nah,
No, it's just a zero. So if it
I'd
lands
say the odds are better, but it's still kind of.
So, are you hoping that we land on green at all, or are you hoping that we go through the questions?
No, I want to.
go.
I want you guys to ask me some questions.
Our last two guests wanted to
I don't know
let
about
me-
the personal ones, to be fair. The personal ones might be a little bit. I don't know what you fellas have up your sleeve, eh? Like, that could be a bit intrusive or something.
Not too much, I'd say.
I feel like out of all the episodes we've filmed, it always leans towards the black questions more
Which
than
I
the
like,
personal.
to be honest.
I think that this will be an interesting episode.
Yeah. I guess we aren't a sports podcast after all, but we'll see.
We'll take it away then. Let's see.
It's great.
Gosh, that was quick.
I think that's red.
Oh, wow, look at that. We're starting with a red.
Starting with a red.
Who has had the biggest influence on your life or your volleyball career, and what have you learned from them?
Ooh.
Could just be sport in general as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one, actually. In terms of volleyball, it's a real tough one to say. I mean, I'll kind of start off with just in general. I'd say my dad's a pretty kind of big motivator in my life. He's just an absolute lad, pretty got a pretty good relationship with him, and like he's the one who kind of got me into sports and sort of thing. I can remember playing a bit of volleyball with him at a young age, and him being pretty encouraging about it. So I think in terms of early on when I started, he was definitely someone who I was, who helped to motivate me to play and whatnot. I'd say as I grew up though, probably a guy who stood out to me as a fella called Ben Lang, who he is one of the three notorious Lang brothers in the volleyball scene, and he's based down here in Christchurch. And I met him kind of earlier on when I was up in Nelson, because I think his uncle used to teach at our school, but he'd sort of come up and play sort of beach volleyball against me when I was a year 9, year 10. Bit of a young fella, and he's just someone who's like, he just has a way about him that like uplifts everyone when you see him. Like, you can tell he's got a true passion for the sport. He's just someone that can talk to anyone, will know everyone when he walks into the sports stadium, just have a natter to everyone. I don't know how he does anything in his day, to be honest. But yeah, he's like such a great lad. Coaches, I think, one of the Burnside teams, the younger teams. But yeah, just had some like real good conversations to him about volleyball. You know, he's real hands-on into like the mental side of things, like how you deal with sports, you know, winning and losing and that sort of thing. And he knows a lot about the game as well. So yeah, I'd probably say Ben Lang's a pretty notable person for me.
My turn to spin.
Yeah, go for it.
This is pretty nerve-wracking, eh? So I'm just like, if it's green, that's crazy.
Nah.
We haven't had it land on green yet.
You haven't?
Yeah.
What are we on? Black?
We're on black. So a
Sweet.
sporty question.
Okay.
How do you balance your training, schoolwork, and personal life, especially during the volleyball season, or when traveling for tournaments? You don't really travel, or do you?
Yeah, that is a great question. I would say you don't, but you kind of have to. It's like a typical player in season, right? We have 2 trainings a week. So I'm in the men's A team for Pioneer Volleyball. We'll have 2 trainings a week. So our trainings were Wednesday nights and Saturday morning trainings, which is, yeah, you can say that again. It's pretty tough. Reluctant, but we get up for it. We always go out afterwards. But so 2 trainings a week, plus you'll have Monday night games, which is just like the league in Christchurch. So we'll just be playing against the other men's teams who are competing in the Southern Zone tournament, which doesn't count towards anything in terms of club nationals and whatnot. But we've got that on Monday nights. And then as well as that, I actually coached one of the development boys team this year, which also meant another game coaching for me on Monday night. So I'd usually play a game and then coach a game on a Monday night. And then on a Thursday, I think we had training. So that's almost like four times a week we kind of got volleyball. So in terms of balancing it, it's pretty tough. It can be, it's trying to get, for me, I'm studying here at broadcasting school as well. So it's just a matter of trying to get on top of things early. Once you get the work, doing it in the uni hours, so that after uni, you can kind of let loose and not have to worry about that and play sport, which helps kind of feel better about that sort of thing. The good thing about volleyball is like it's a sport where I'd be happy to cover lots of people and they'd be happy to cover me. So I can, it's a sport where I could say, even though we're trying to play at a real competitive level in New Zealand, I can say, hey, look, do you mind if I miss this training? If I'm really under the pump, which I don't think I did this year, which pretty proud of myself for not doing that. It's definitely a tough one. Definitely a tough one.
Do you have like mates like outside of volleyball?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and is it sometimes hard to make time for them sometimes as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think with volleyball, it's interesting. I think quite a lot of us who play together in our team have kind of not accepted that our volleyball mates are our mates, but I think because we're so invested in the sport and you're playing it all the time, they're the people you're around the most. So they, in a way, they do become your friend group, which you spend quite a lot of time with. Well, at least in my 4 years here. But 100%. If you're with got some other friends on the side, it's pretty tough. Yeah, sometimes you're like, hey, you want to do something this weekend, or as you said, like on a Friday night, and it's like, oh, I could, but do I really want to be showing up to training dusty? It's probably not the best look for all of those lads. But you can usually find a way around it. I mean, sometimes I've just invited my friends. I've said, hey, come down and watch one of our games or something like that, and they're pretty happy to come down and support and whatnot. And then afterwards, whether it's hanging out with them, grabbing a beer or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like every team, they kind of become a family. You've got your highs, you've got your lows.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. I mean, one of my best mates who's at broadcasting school, Big Sam, that you boys know, like he's one of my best mates now, and I wouldn't have known him if it hadn't have been for volleyball. So it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, you're 100% on the money there. Your family is kind of in volleyball. You're all playing together, you're around each other. Whether you like them or not, you kind of have to get along with them.
Right. Would you like to take it away and
I'm
spin
having a
our
go.
wheel for us. What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping not for green. Green would just, it'd just take the fun away straight away.
Exactly.
That's a good flick.
Trying to get it up the side.
That is a really good spin.
God, it's making me a bit dizzy, I reckon.
Yeah, it is red.
It is on red.
Look at that.
Good eye, mate. When you're not on the volleyball court, what hobbies or activities do you enjoy doing in your free time?
That's a good question. When I'm not on the volleyball court, I think for me and for quite a lot of people, volleyball's one of those things where all year long it takes up all your time, because in winter you're obviously getting ready, you're playing your club indoor stuff and that sort of thing, and then as you roll into summer, that's when the school volleyball rocks back up again. So they play term 1 and term 4. So since the club nationals has finished, I picked up a team actually at Middleton. They're actually great fun to play with. They're just such good lads, and I kind of picked it up through a guy who I play volleyball with in my team. But so I'm coaching them at the moment. And then also with that, you start getting into beach season, and beach volleyball is like a whole different side of things. Like, it's obviously the same players and the same people who usually play indoor, but in a way it's a completely different sport from normal volleyball. So in terms of my hobbies and stuff, I feel like it's filled a lot in with volleyball in lots of sort of different ways. But I mean, I'm your average Joe. I like going to the beach. I go for a skate sometimes, to and from school here, and then what else? Go to the skate park a little bit, play a bit of disc golf,
Hey.
for relaxation. Yeah.
Where do you play disc golf around here?
Where do you play it? So I used to live nearby in Burnside, Jelly Park. They've got a pretty solid course there, and I know of some more open courses and longer courses. I think they have around some of the red zones. So I think there's one by QE2 and one sort of near Ascot.
I don't know there was any disc golf in Christchurch.
Disc golf's a pretty big community, eh? I kind of didn't realise it either, until I came down to Christchurch. I think it was sort of in lockdown I picked it up. But there's we're not on the level, I think, because it's huge in America. I don't think we're on the level of them, but we have disc golfers who play in pro tournaments in New Zealand, that sort of thing, and there's courses all around the place, which is it's pretty crazy stuff. There's some disc golf heads out there. They love that. They love that plastic. Yeah.
So back to the hobbies. So you're studying broadcasting. Do you have any hobbies to do with that? Do you do any broadcast-based things?
I mean, not so much at the moment. I know that back in the day, for volleyball and that sort of things, they had sort of a few bits and pieces that they did. They used to broadcast the club nationals and stuff within New Zealand, and they'd have commentators for that as well. I guess in a way I was kind of really interested in doing that, but I think over the years they've steered away from it. Some of the stuff they do is a bit more international. I think they're trying to get the game out there for other people to spectate. But with that, there's the university stuff, the UTSNZ, because they have a volleyball competition in there, and they've got commentating sort of stuff in there. So I haven't got amongst it yet, but it's something I'm real keen to get back into the sport, especially with the school stuff as well. Being one of the biggest tournaments in New Zealand, the Māori channel do some coverage for them when that competition's on, and that just goes off. There's so many people who watch those games that are played.
Let's see what we can land on this time.
Hopefully
Spin
green.
away.
Hopefully green.
Hopefully green.
Whoa.
Just
What are you
kidding.
trying to
You better not
say
have
about
called
Marco there, Cam?
Commentator's
I'm
curse
not
coming
saying
up.
anything about it.
Oh, that was close.
That was extremely close.
Bro,
just
why
not
does
gonna
it
land
suck
on
at spin,
anything.
bro. That looks like a
Okay,
black to me.
no, you said I suck at spinning, so I'm going again. Call me out like that.
You know he hit a guest with that ball once?
You've hit a guess
He
with the
did.
ball.
He threw it and he missed that and hit him sitting there.
Did they just place it on green automatically and just walk out?
They
Were they
probably
nah.
wanted to. No, it was a good icebreaker. They actually found it quite entertaining. I went and I tossed the ball and I threw it at the person.
You just accidentally missed. Accidentally.
Well, what are you trying to insinuate there, Mark?
I don't know. I wasn't there, so I actually can't say. Yeah.
What skills or areas of your game are you focusing on improving right now? And what advice would you give to younger players looking to follow in your footsteps?
You sound like I've got pretty big footsteps there.
Hey, big shoes to fill.
Not quite. I think after playing this year, so my position's middle blocker, so I don't know if you boys have watched much volleyball before, but they're kind of the fella who's like
Jumping up.
Yeah, jumping up. There's a fair few of those. So there's kind of like 6 players on the court, and the middle, funnily enough, is in the middle of the front row, so the people at the net. And what they have to do is kind of protect the net and do lots of blocking and stuff, making sure they're covering all of the attackers on the other side of the court, and then also trying to get in some sneaky. They do like a bit more faster pace attacks because they're quite close to the.
So I'm going to jump in here quickly,
We're gonna
and
run
this
it.
might be a really stupid question.
Go for it.
And
Here we go.
Cam's already preparing to rip me out, but whenever it was played in high school,
Yeah.
are there actually positions? I just thought you stand in a square and go around in a circle. So
Yes,
you're
there's positions.
Yeah.
He just said what position.
I know, but that's what sparked the question.
I think he's bang on. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like any sport, you know, when you play it a bit younger. I mean, could you remember any football positions when you were 7 years old? You can't, I mean, I guess you had a goalkeeper and whatnot, but everyone's sort of running around the pitch like a maniac. It's sort of like that in volleyball in a way. But yes, there are positions. So there's 5 main positions really in volleyball. So the probably one of the more important ones is like a setter. So they're the person that they're not often attacking the ball, spiking the ball, as say, and they're kind of like they're like the offensive coordinator really. So they're the one distributing the sets of the ball, setting different positions and spreading the offense, making it hard for the other team to defend around it. That's one of the positions. Then there's an outside hitter. So they swing on the outside, we say, which is sort of opposite, the furthest away from where the setter is, on the left side. Outside hitter, left side hitter. There's so many names for them. And they do a bit of everything. So they're passing in what we call serve receive. So kind of in like tennis, like they'd be the ones who are receiving the serve. They're also hitting and they're also blocking in the front court. Then what we have is opposites, and they're people who aren't in the serve receive pattern. So they're not receiving the ball, but they're sort of like your offensive weapon. So they're usually your hardest hitter, your highest blocker, that sort of thing. And they play front court and back court as well. So do a little bit of defending. And then you have kind of 2 unique positions, so middle blockers and then a position called libero. So middle blockers are the ones who are in sort of the front court all the time. They never go into the back court unless they're serving the ball. And they're basically like your defensive protectors. So they're like at the net, they're the first line of defense ready to block the ball. And then the liberos, when a middle gets to the backcourt rotation, they swap out for a libero, and your libero is basically your like backcourt specialist. So they're, in a sense, if your middle block is yang, then your libero is yang. They're sort of opposites to each other, and they're in the serve receive lineup as well as the 2 outside hitters, and they do all your defending. So they're the guys who are making the crazy plays where a ball's about to drop on the floor and they sprint and dive and get it up and stuff like that.
Sure.
Usually the shorter players as well. So sometimes when people don't quite grow enough in high school, they tend to end up in sort of libero positions. And sort of.
So you don't have to be tall to play volleyball?
Yeah, it's
I don't know. It's kind of like So I feel like it's volleyball and basketball.
It's one of those stigmas, yeah.
It is kind of a stigma. I think to a degree, it's sort of one of those things where you don't have to be tall to play. Some of the best volleyballers ever are like, some of them are barely 6 foot. And I'm not saying that that's, short in a sense. It's short for volleyball, but liberos and that sort of thing can get to pretty short height. So our libero, for instance, God, I'm going to insult him here. I think he's about 5. I want to say 5'7" or 5'8". That might be a bit generous. I think he actually might be a bit shorter than that. He says he's 5'7", but in reality, I think he'd be shorter than both of you lads. And he's just a crazy dude. Like he plays so well. Yeah, he doesn't get up and like he's not on the offensive side doing like the hitting and the spiking and the blocking and that sort of thing. But he really like shines in the backcourt. You know, there is positions for kind of everyone in volleyball. That's for sure.
Do you want to have another spin?
I'll have a go. Let's see how we do.
It's landed on red.
What are your long-term goals, both in terms of volleyball and outside of sports, and how do you plan to achieve them?
All right, big question. Goals in the sport. I'd say a pretty big goal in terms of like within the sport that I myself and quite a few other people have had for a while on my team. We've wanted to win a club champ title. Sorry. We have come fourth 3 years in a row. The past 3 years. And I can hear you over there. It's a pretty awful stat to have. Some of the years have been more unfortunate than others. This year just gone has been probably the most gutting of all because we probably felt the most ready to win, and we could we didn't want to like let the noise in, but we, got the sense that a lot of people were saying, you guys are sort of a shoe-in for this year's final, that sort of thing. We kind of thought, if we get to the final, doesn't matter who we're playing, we'll win. But we, fell short again, which is just like, it's salt in the wound, especially the third year round. So we're kind of, we're in a bit of a state, I guess, after that at the moment. But it's sort of just trying to see how we can get back after that and sort of assessing what things need to happen, trying to achieve that. Because put it this way, none of the teams that we're playing against are probably going to get any worse in the next two or so years. So it's just sort of trying to work out how we go about that. So I'd say within the sport, outside the sport, I guess one like dream of mine would be like if the sport became big in New Zealand. I think globally, I think New Zealand's ranked in like the last like 20 or 30 countries in terms of volleyball. Yeah.
Is it that big?
It's huge. So just about any country you can think of. Like, it's not really a sport that's like specific to an area. Like, you know how
so there's not really like Europe's not the best at it. Is that what you're
yeah,
going to say?
it's not like how Europe is good. I would say football, but football's a global one again. It's not really like that. Like at the top level, there's countries from every single every single continent who are really good at the sport and in their own sort of way. So like the Japanese, really good at volleyball. The South American countries, so Brazil, Argentina, all really good at volleyball. The USA are really good at volleyball as well, and Canada. So America in general, and the Central Americans. So I think like the Dominican Republic, I think they made it into the VNL this year, which is kind of like it's one of those like top 16 teams or something. And then in Europe, like they're so good as well. So like lots of the Eastern countries, so like Russia, Poland, particularly, they just won the Olympics this year. The Netherlands are good. Like it's not at all specific to a region. So I think, in terms of New Zealand, like it's kind of one of those things. Like we have good sports people in general. Like we have fantastic sports people. It's just I think the sport is kind of in the shadow of a lot of others. Like there's a lot of people who play maybe basketball who could be really good at volleyball, but choose to play basketball just because it's a little bit more ingrained in sort of, our like the way we live. There's far more people who are trying to play basketball in New Zealand. Far more people who are trying to play rugby and that sorts of things. Funnily enough, rugby players make great volleyballers. I played with a few at school, and they were just great. Like, they were just athletic beasts. Like they could just about do everything. So yeah, to see the sport, I think, grow in New Zealand would be a dream of mine. Like, if I can one day have a job commentating volleyball in New Zealand and be doing that full time, that'd be awesome. And I don't know whether that starts with indoor volleyball or beach volleyball or what, but it'd be super cool to see.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think we've got time for one more.
I was about to say one more question. You want to spin?
I'll take the final spin.
Go on.
Let's see. What are we?
Imagine if
gonna
it's
land on?
green.
I know.
That would be
wouldn't
crazy. Like the final
spin.
final
Oh,
spin.
yeah, it's not. It's a red.
Not. Red. I'm all good with that.
What's something people might be surprised to learn about you, given how much time you dedicate to volleyball and your study?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of a hard one because, like,
Any hidden talents?
any hidden talents? I've got.
I hate that
I feel like
You
let's
hate
hear
that
it.
question?
Let's hear it. You've
I
got one.
can-
I can see it on
I don't
the tip of your
want to
tongue.
do it because it's like kind of. Okay. When I was younger, I had surgery in my eye. Here we go. I had surgery in my eye. Watch me like pop my eye out or something. No, I had surgery in my eye that was like, I don't know what I had. Like, I think I had something nasty, like conjunctivitis or something like that, and they just needed to clear it out. So they had a plastic tube that they like were clearing things out, and I think they were trying to clear out my my tear duct, and I was too young to remember this. It was when I was really young, but my mum told me when they were sort of sorting it out, she heard like the doctor kind of go, and then she kind of went, oh, what was that? And they went, oh, we're just like sort of bringing the plastic tube out, but we're not sure where it's gone. Like, we couldn't really find it. And so they I think they just assumed like they dropped it or something, but like I can actually like, I don't know if it's still in there or not. Like, I don't know if I have a plastic tube in my eye, but I can like blow air out my tear duct, which is pretty crazy.
What?
I kind of want to see this now.
Well, you won't be able to see it.
It's sometimes pretty nasty. What I'll do is if I close my eyelid, like I can make a sound with it. Just hold on.
Oh, what the heck?
So that's like a real weird talent, blowing air out of my tear duct, which is pretty crazy. I don't know how I figured that out because it was years later where I went, I can do that. I don't know how I figured it out, but yeah, pretty
That's
crazy
insane.
stuff.
That's crazy.
But
It's like,
Here we go
is
for more talent.
that uncomfortable or like?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like,
A little bit.
you've
I
just
kind
got-
of when I was sort of like 10 or something, I think I got into a habit of like doing it kind of often, and I'll be like, get a pretty just consistent stream of air coming out. And I was kind of then thinking like, you search up all those magic tricks where they like get something up their nose and then bring it out their eye. I was like, maybe I could learn how to do that, but I quickly was like, absolutely not. I saw some videos and I was like, nah, that ain't me.
Never made the attempt.
No, never made the attempt. I don't want to have to go back to hospital. Then I get another plastic tube stuck down or something like that.
But they might find the other one.
They might find actually that's a really good point. Maybe that will clear it out if I actually did try. Yeah.
I feel like that's almost more insane than the people that can fold their eyebrow. Their,
Oh yeah, the
You know
eyelid
what I'm
thing.
on-
Yeah, I can't do that.
do you know what?
fold the what?
Do you not know how they can
where they,
fold
like,
their
pull it.
eyelids out?
Yeah, it's crazy. They like bring their eyelids like out with holding their eyelashes and then they blink or whatever. Hey?
Like they can physically flip their eyelids.
Yeah, it's crazy. They just like get them like that and then they make a stupid
It's just
face.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, thank you for coming on and being our guest on the All on Green podcast.
You guys are so welcome. Cheers for having me.
Hey,
Look at that. You took the words right out of his mouth.
you're very welcome.
Speechless, eh?
Thanks for joining.
Were you
no,
about
it's
to
been
say
great.
thanks for having us?
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on the podcast, Mark.
Hey, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been great fun. It's good to talk.
It's been a privilege. It's been an honour.
Yeah, can I take the roulette?
And that's full time for today. New episodes dropping every Tuesday and Thursday.